So today I got one more major maintenance thing I need to do before I can get started on the big project. Stay tuned. Hi guys, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael and I am the woodworker for MK Designs. And yeah, like I said, I have one more major maintenance thing I need to take care of before I can get started on the big project. And that is I need to clean off my clamps. When I got these 4 parallel clamps back in December of last year, I neglected, or I spaced on it and neglected to put wax on them. So when I was doing glue ups and stuff, glue kind of got on them and stuck. Moving forward, always make sure you put wax on new clamps and you keep them waxed so that the glue, you can just pop the glue right off. I neglected to do that on these 4, so I'm going to correct that issue now. My clamps are not near as bad as what I have seen some people out there with. I mean, it looks like they've neglected them for years and haven't gotten the glue off, and their slides, their clamps have started binding up on them, trying to get them slid into place, and that's when they finally decide to try and clean them. There's a few methods out there. The vinegar trick that I'm sure you've seen, it does work. Problem is, it takes a few days and it creates a mess that you have to clean up, which is fine because it does get the glue off. It makes these things look almost brand new, but it does take a while. I have done that in the past. I'm not going to do that this time. I've got a few other things I'm going to try. So yeah, let me show you what my clamps look like right now and we'll get started. These are my 4 parallel clamps. There's my hat in the background. And you can see they've got a little bit of glue buildup on them. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And the bottoms are actually not that bad. I've got a few spots, like there's one here and here, but nothing major. And another advantage that I have is I haven't used them to their full extent, so I don't have any glue down on the far end, so which will make it easier to clamp them down to do what I want to do. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take a chisel and get off the bigger chunks. Sometimes they just pop off like this, and other times I take a little more scraping to get them off. But I want to get off the bigger chunks before I move ahead with anything else. Now, one thing I want to be careful of is I don't want to run the chisel into the teeth on the top or the bottom of the bar too hard, because I don't want to run the risk of damaging them. I don't want to, I want to get rid of the bigger glue spots on them, or globs, but I don't want to shove the chisel into them and damage them so that it'll stop the clamps from working. Okay, now this is something I wanted to try. I got this goof off. I've used it in the past to get off a lot of things. I wanted to see if it would work on the glue. And so the way I'm going to do this is I'm wearing chemical resistant gloves, and I'm going to just put it on the glue spots and let it sit for a few seconds and then rub it off. And what I'm going to use is these Scotch-Brite heavy-duty green pads to try and scrub it off. And I'm just going to work it slowly, rubbing back and forth over the whole bar, and keep applying the goof off as necessary, and we'll see what it does. Okay, so the Scotch-Brite pad wasn't working all that great, so I'm going to take a brass brush and start scrubbing on it with the goof off and see how that works. Well, it is working, but it's not working all that well, and it's taking a little bit more time than I was hoping for. So with that, I'm going to move to something a little more aggressive. Now, normally I would use a brass wheel because the brass won't eat at the steel on the bar. But my local big box store didn't have a brass one, so I had to get the steel wire wheel brush. And I'm just being very gentle and just hitting the glue spots and trying not to dig it into the steel too much. And I just chucked it up in my drill and knocked it out. And as you can see, it took care of all the glue. And here you're going to see a demonstration of how you want your clamps to work. You want to be able to just slide them back and forth and then lock them down where you need them. And one last thing you want to do before you call it done with maintenance on your clamps is you want to coat them with paste wax. You should do this when they're new, but as I said earlier, I forgot to do it. I use this Staples Crystal Clear paste wax because I can get it locally. But any paste wax will do. I know some people have specific brands that they like, but any paste wax that you use, you just put it on and rub it in good, and you leave it on. Normally when you apply paste wax, you'll rub it on and let it dry and then wipe it off. But on your clamps, you just leave it on there, and it creates a coating, and it doesn't build up, and it doesn't mess with your finish and all that. So it's really the best thing to do, because if you get glue on your clamps from this point, it really just pops off. You won't have to go through this process again unless the wax wears off and you get glue on it at that point. And I've got two brand new 40-inch Bessie parallel clamps, and I'm gonna take all the extra stuff off, and I'm going to do the same thing with them. I'm going to wax them, and that way hopefully I won't have to go through this on these two clamps. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick and simple, especially with the wire brush. I wanted to test all this. I wasn't sure if any of it would actually work. I just wanted to test it and see. The goof off, I think, would eventually have worked, because it was taking it off. It was just very, very slowly taking it off. And so I went ahead and went to the drill and used that. One thing I would suggest, though, is if you're going to use the drill and you're going to use a wheel like that, is get a brass wheel instead of the steel one that I used. The only reason I had that was because my local big box store didn't have the brass one. The brass has a less chance of actually damaging the bars. I don't know if you could see in the video or not, but I was going very, very gently on it. I was really just mainly trying to hit the glue spots, and so that I didn't damage the little teeth here, so that the clamps would still work like they're supposed to. But the steel would have a better chance of damaging it. Now, granted, it's probably not as dangerous to it as taking a chisel to it real hard, because they're both steel, and steel can damage steel. We all know this. But again, I would get a brass brush and use that instead of the steel. So this is the last major thing I have to do. There is a couple other things that I have to do. I'm going to be modifying my table here, which is why I'm so far back. I wanted you guys to see the clamps after I got them finished. These are the new ones back here, and these are the four that I had. And I wanted you to see part of the top of my table, not the whole thing, obviously, because the camera angle it won't work for that. You've seen it in some of my other videos, I'm sure. But I'm going to be making some modifications to this thing. and I'm going to film that, and we're going to get moving. I've got a couple other things coming up. And for those of you that might be wondering, my client is very, very understanding. They know it's going to take me a minute to get moving on this and to get it done. They're not in any kind of real hurry. So, yeah, we've got some weather moving in, and so I got to put everything up for today. But we're making progress. Like I said, I've got a couple other things coming up, and one I think you're really going to enjoy, and we'll go from there. So until next time, guys, happy creating.